Let's take a quick look at how Jon Jones submitted Ciryl Gane in the first round. The first thing to notice is how well Jon is able to cut the cage and impose his pressure. There was a lot of talk about Ciryl being the fighter with better striking, footwork, and movement. However, what most didn't realize is Cyryl's footwork is elite in a striking context. For the most part, Ciryl has devastated opponents with his movement style. However, when faced with an opponent like Jon Jones, this style of footwork can quickly become a weakness and disadvantage. Darting in and out, keeping your base light and loose as opposed to firm and stable, and freely moving around the octagon is a terrible strategy against the heavyweight Jon Jones, because all this light-footed movement allows Jon to easily take the center of the octagon and establish his pressure by cutting off the cage. Another very important thing to note, Ciryl Gane does not have better footwork than Jon Jones. Footwork is generally a misunderstood concept, where people think the more someone moves, the better their footwork is, and this is often not the case, like Jon Jones for example. His steps are measured, calculated, strong, and stable, where Gane's footwork is like a floating cloud moving across the octagon. Such a style simply won't work against a Jon Jones who is looking to pressure and grapple you. Jon knew that the center of the octagon would be available right from the start of the match, and he took full advantage of that. Jon's footwork is brilliant. He cuts the cage off and pressures Gane to the fence with every step he takes. He immediately is in sync with Gane's footwork rhythm, and this allows him to easily back Ciryl up by taking away all the space that Gane keeps giving away. Essentially, Jon is allowing Gane to back himself up to the fence by cutting off the cage, and I think Ciryl did not expect Jon to be able to back him up so easily. The efficiency of Jon's footwork, as well as his enormous frame, creates an incredibly imposing figure inside the octagon, and one that can seemingly move his opponent wherever he wants inside the cage. Another reason this pressure is so imposing is Jon does not allow any mistakes to go unpunished, or at least he does his best to punish you for every mistake you make. You give him room, he takes it. You throw a weak leg kick with no base underneath you without retracting your foot back in time, Jon will quickly snatch your leg and return fire with a straight right hand down the pipe, and he connects clean on this one right here. He does this again just over 10 seconds later when Ciryl throws another weak low kick. Immediately, Jon is letting him know he isn't getting anything for free, not even a low kick that will do practically no damage. This is both psychological and strategic. Ciryl needs to now recalibrate his low kicks, and Jon is able to continuously use the straight right hand to keep the pressure on Ciryl, nullifying one of his greatest strengths, the low kick. And finally, the biggest flaw in Cyryl's movement style is what led to his finish, and that is the fact that Ciryl doesn't throw his shots with a strong base underneath him, and he often drags his feet when he throws his shots, because he likes to strike while switching stances. The result leads to this: exposing your back, being grossly out of position with your weight high up in the air, and giving up a body lock. Jon quickly gets his back, drags him to the floor, and that's all she wrote. Jon could have done whatever he wanted to Gane on the ground. There's really nothing more to add, but I want to point out something really cool Jon did. After taking Gane down, he quickly gets him in a control position I don't think I've ever seen, and that's because I don't think anyone else in MMA can even assume this position of control, because they simply don't have the frame for it. Jon Jones has trapped Gane's right foot and elevated it off the mat, essentially making it useless. He has far side body control with his left arm, and he has wrist control with his right arm. He then switches from controlling Gane's near side wrist to his far side wrist, and this is the control position I don't think I've ever seen before. It's like an anaconda wrapping up its prey. But here's the cool part in all this. He lets go of wrist control, quickly shoots up his knee, and essentially traps Cyryl's right leg between his legs. Ciryl is now posting on both hands, has his right leg and hip isolated, and has his weight on his left leg. Jones now, instead of reaching for the wrist again, he goes between the legs of Ciryl and grabs his far side ankle, drives through, gets Ciryl to post on one arm, and then sweeps the leg through to take Cyryl's base out underneath him while he only has one arm posted. And notice how he doesn't sweep the leg through immediately after grabbing it. He drives through, waits for Gane to go from posting on both his arms to posting on only one arm, and then takes out his base while Gane cannot post on both arms. From here, he uses this opportunity to take Cyryl's back, And really, there's no point in breaking down this sequence because the level is just so far ahead. I mean, Gane is not even exhibiting basic defensive techniques like hand fighting the body lock or trying to create space between Jon's hips against the fence. Honestly, Gane's defense was so bad, you really have to look at the coaching and if they're doing the right things in practice. It kind of reminds me of when Stipe completely out-wrestled and grappled Francis Ngannou in their first fight. So I don't think it's unfair to ask why both of these fighters, fighting out of the same gym at that time, are both so underprepared for the grappling aspect of the fight. And I think Gane and his coach need to ask themselves this question as well. Overall, although it was a very poor defensive performance from Gane, Jon clearly established himself as the greatest mixed martial artist of all time and showed once again there's levels to this shit. Thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.